Hello, Targar friends. Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it is time for another Orc Mode workout. And today was Max Effort Lower Day, but a quick reminder for those of you who watch these videos, please remember to click like down below. It would be greatly appreciated. Reach down there and do that. Thank you so much. So, in keeping with what I said I'm going to do, we're just going to hit good training maxes, and I'm not going to attempt lifts that I might miss. Okay, we're just going to get good solid training maxes in. And I'm going to focus on programming off of these. We're going to rotate through them and try to PR on these different lifts. And people need to understand, it's like when I did this before, there's always some controversy when I do a lot of the bands and chains, and I don't get it because we've done it before, and people are like, oh, that doesn't represent a 500 squat, and then I squat 500. Right, guys are watching me do stuff with 425 with 100 pounds of bands. Well, actually for me that is a 500 squat. Now, chains carry over a bit different, but for me, bands absolutely carry over in that way. They absolutely carry over. It gets very, very, very close to what I can lift for a max. And the reason for that is because I tend to not be slow out of the bottom of lifts. And bands hit nearly their peak tension by the halfway point. So when you're watching these, people are thinking, oh, the 65 pounds of bands. Well, no, it's like 10 pounds of bands at the bottom. Right? The very bottom of these lifts is probably 10 pounds of band tension. There's 60 pounds of band tension by the time I've reached halfway. Right? If you guys notice, the bar slows just a little bit where the bands are reaching full tension. Okay? That's what's happening. Because at that point, I basically have 600 pounds. Right? There's basically 600 pounds on the bar at that point, so it moves a little bit slower. But the whole point here is that we're rotating through the lifts. We're getting used to holding heavier weights on the lockouts, dealing with accommodating resistance to improve speed and power when it does apply to maxes, and getting good training maxes and having a lot of variation so we can avoid overuse injuries, having the variation to program off of for all the rep work. And it's just going to slowly come up, and I'm going to PR on these different lifts, and then when I go to PR on the classic lifts again, you guys will see big numbers. We've done it before. We've done it before. So it's not like this is new. Okay, we've done this multiple times on this channel. I've been training this way a couple of years. And that's what we see happen over and over. So it shouldn't be a surprise at this point. Because I do get the people who will say that. Same thing with the chains here. And I made a post. The chains do not represent that that's what I have at the lockout, because there's a little bit of chain on the ground. But I need to record the chain weights for consistency, so next time I come in and put this exact same chain set on, right, and I label it by pounds, instead of me trying to say, oh yeah, I use these seven chains, it's just easier for me to record it as pounds, because the chains all add up to 98 pounds. Now there's a little bit of it still on the floor. I don't know exactly how much. I could probably blow the camera and count the links, and I could give it to you within a couple pounds, but I don't care. I'm trying to stay fairly consistent in my chain setups, and that's what matters. But again, happy with that pull. And I did two pulls there because the first one with the 515 felt too light. I'm like, let me make another jump. And the 525 was still just a training max. And that's the whole point. With some of these, I want to hit a lift that I could probably grind out a second rep. Getting a good training max. The main thing we're looking for is for these lifts to be at least 95% of my max. Okay? We get a max effort training response from that. Now, I did my rep work today based upon that Cambered calculation. I did the bands and the weights both at, just a hair over 70%. Oh my God, this was hard. And it should be, because it's up past 400 pounds when we're dealing with the midpoint on. And bands are so different. And the thing I noticed from the band squats the other day, I got DOMs in my quads. Now people will say, well, that's not unusual. Yes, it is. I don't get DOMs in my quads. So I need that to be clear. That is not something that happens to me. My quads don't get sore the next day after training, even squatting what I squat. Bands gave me the DOMs. It's interesting. So these, the second set, it was all I could handle. I'm almost dying there. I'm like, okay, I'm done. I'm going to do belt squats to make sure I'm going to hit my quads today. We need to focus on good mornings. These two sets took a lot out of me, especially doing a squat and deadlift first and then doing the two sets of this. They were tough. But they're 377 plus 45 pounds of bands. So that 45 pounds of bands is kicking in by the halfway point, and it's not unloaded at the bottom. So always keep that in mind with bands. We're not unloaded at the bottom. There's still at least 10 pounds. That 45 kicks in by the midway, and then we're fighting against the acceleration. But I noticed my mid-back struggling a lot with this. So again, the good mornings are going to help my squatting, because if the rep work is being limited by my middle back has to get stronger for my quads to get stronger from the quads. I felt like my mid-back was limiting me, and I'm not saying my quads weren't burning. My quads were getting hammered hard, but my middle back, whereas for the other bar, it's the upper back. Right? My upper back is what gets hit super hard with the safety squat bar. This is the middle back. One of the same areas I feel is a weak link in my deadlifting oftentimes. Okay, so we're seeing that come out in the rep work. Like my middle back was struggling by the end. So again, we work it. And I decided, let's go ahead and do these. And after every one of the cambered bar max days, I'm going to start doing the cambered bar squats. Just like on the safety bar days, we're doing the good mornings with the safety bar. We're going to do the same thing with the cambered bar. I'm going to build this back up real fast because I haven't done it in a while. So I went 275 for 10. It was too light. Went up to 315, did 10, and then did 12. Next time, I'll come in and go harder. Right? And what we'll end up doing probably as we start rotating more bars in, I might only end up deadlifting once every 10 days, every 2 weeks, and I might do a bunch of max good mornings as a second lift. Because it's really the difference. I need to have a hip hinge and a squat. With the pressing, I can get away with the one max press. In fact, I notice my performance is better on the rep work. I'm not as beat up if I only max on one press. But when I was doing different angles, like inclined and overhead and all that, it kind of made sense. I'm not training those as movement patterns at the moment, letting my shoulders heal up. And it's making a profound difference already. Like I feel a dramatic difference today having not done any incline work. So the point we come to with all that, we'll discuss some of that in later vlogs. People have said, hey, are you worried about a muscle imbalance? No. Like I'm not doing chins, but rows actually hit the upper back better. Your muscle imbalance on the back is usually that your lats get too big for your upper back, and that creates shoulder issues, which, you know, chin-ups and no rows do. So since I'm doing all row variations, I'm fine. Same thing we could deal with the overhead stuff. The only concern is that left shoulder. I mean, the dips and the close grip bench hit my chest super hard. Dips hit my upper chest, my lower chest, everything. So I'm not worried about a muscle imbalance. I'll just get really, really good at repping heavy dips. Okay. So our only concern then is in delts. But a lot of the inverted rows and all the other rows actually do hit side delts decently. Front delts are getting a lot of pressing. You know, in worst case, I can come in and do a little bit of light delt work. As my shoulder health comes back up, I can do extra delt work. I might even do snatch grip stuff, hang pulls, things like that. It's fine. So there's nothing that's going to be underworked. Right? We don't always have to have those movement patterns, especially if they become problematic. But over to this stuff, good mornings went good. Then I did shrugs. And actually, people would say, why are we doing the shrugs? And notice I'm using a deadlift bar. I'm toughening my hands. So I'm not doing any deadlift rep work. And I need my grip to stay on point. So this gives me some extra rep work to toughen my hands to deadlift bars. Because the deadlift bars are hard on your hands. But it's doing so in a way that doesn't shred it, because it's not huge amounts of weight. So we can not holding that much double overhand. I just did 280 today for my shrugs, and I'll work this up. But it is good grip training because it's double overhand being held with a fairly heavy weight. So it lets me kill two birds with one stone. Get some extra grip work in. And a lot of my training is geared towards that. I mean, I'm doing 10 sets of row variations without straps on both my other days, and I am considering grip and all of that. Doing a little bit of pinch block work. Right, so this is what we'll do. We'll get the grip up, but it lets me work my upper traps. Upper traps might be getting neglected a hair relative to the middle and lower traps. So you know what? A little bit of extra upper trap and some grip training. You combine this with the good mornings, and we have a recipe to build my deadlift. Now, it's not the only thing we're doing, because we're squatting and doing reverse hypers and all of that. Okay? Not the only things we're doing, but if I wanted to look at a couple of lifts right now that will really bring my deadlift up, I think, to go along with all the squatting, those lifts will do it. And good mornings in general bring both of them, all my lifts up. they're largely responsible for me getting to the 600 squat. I got really good at good mornings, and I took a low 500 squat to a 600 over the course of months, the months after the good mornings went up. It's a pivotal exercise. And then these hip belt squats are here just to make sure all my lower body squatting muscles are getting enough volume, but in a way that's not beating my back up further. Now, this setup is a bit better. We've talked a lot about setups. I've been playing around with some things. These first two were okay, but then I figured out something else I could do to make getting in and out of it easier using one of my deadlift jacks, which you guys will see at the end. Okay, much better, much better. Now, I've got to find a foot position where I can get a little more depth. I might need to go slightly narrower because I'll get a little more depth with it before it hits the bottom, because I have to be able to stand up with this. So that's the tricky part. And I don't want to have to get up on blocks if I can avoid it, right? And I still need to be able to use my hip belt. This helps a lot. This helps a lot. So I think if I adjust my stance a hair, I should be able to get a little bit deeper. We're not super high, and I think people forget that. They're not realizing when they're looking at all these angles, you're at a front angle and the camera is actually at a relatively high angle. It's pointed down on some of these, but the camera itself is well above my hip line. Okay. When I walk up to the camera, you guys will notice it's all the way right around to my stomach. Okay. Base of our squats, the camera is actually above that and pointed downward towards whatever angle I need. So that I don't have to adjust it up and down. That's just where I have the camera set. And I think that creates some of the confusion on the squats. But notice even when you see the safety bars from this angle, you can see the back of the safety bar inches higher. They're in the same hole. And I have big quads, so it distorts it a little bit. Those are not far above parallel, actually. It's just the camera angle. Had I turned around and put my butt in the camera, and I thought about doing that, but then I realized then I would look like I would be doing the same depth, and people would be like, oh man, you're an inch below parallel from that back angle. They probably would be saying that, but then my butt would be right up in the camera. There's limits, guys. I mean, I train already minimally covered for a whole lot of reasons. Number one, it lets people assess where I'm at any given point when they pull this stupid where you're getting fatter, you're not getting bigger, whatever. You guys can see where I'm at any given time. Pretty hard to hide it. I mean, we even see the loose skin. Number two, it still gets hot. I'm in Houston. I still have fans blowing on me. Okay, I have fans blowing on me. It's hot. And because I do a condo thing, there's a system in place to where they don't have the AC running sometimes in the winter. I can't turn the AC on. So I've got fans running on me. It's hot here all the time. And I'm a very warm-natured person. So it works out in a lot of ways, and I don't have to deal with sweating in clothes. But the whole point there is that I'd be up there with basically my butt right up in the camera, and I realized I almost did it, and then I'm like, let me flip this around the other way. That Landmind setup. It's probably better off. And then we did the reverse hypers after. I was really happy with that last set, by the way. That last set, that was really easy to get in and out of. I'm going to use that in the future. I think I've found my sweet spot for the setup. It doesn't have to be banded down because there's no counterbalancing. The reverse hypers, I dropped the weight a little bit because I've noticed after doing the good mornings I'm struggling. And on this last set, even with 50 pounds less, I dropped down to 560. I only got 15 reps. I hit failure at 15. I actually reached muscle failure. So again, I think this is the heaviest weight I'm going to be able to handle after the good morning because I'm getting hamstring cramps and stuff while doing this. First set gave me hamstring cramps. So good workout. Happy with everything today. Last workout of the week. So I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.